Hey, good morning, all. Today we have Ramesh Gupta talking to us on the GenAI adoption and what are the security threats that it is bringing to the industry. Ramesh Gupta is my ex-boss. I used to work for him in McAfee, now known as Trellix. And I know him pretty quite well as a leader, as a person, pretty amazing one. But I will have him describe for the audience that. About his amazing journey for last, I think, 25 plus years or more than that in the security space, and what is he up to now. Ramesh, welcome to the series.
Thanks, Naveen, for the kind introduction. As you stated, I worked at companies like McAfee. So for the last 25 years, I've devoted myself to advanced threat detection and response, both at McAfee and FireEye. I have had the privilege and honor of watching the threat landscape evolve over the last 25 years. I would say, using a front row seat and watching how the attackers have evolved their techniques, how the defenders have evolved their techniques, and contributing to much of that detection and response at these two companies. And I'm continuing to pursue the same even today. So with that, I'll let you take over.
Sure, good. Thanks, Ramesh. As Ramesh, you see the GenAI adoption and GenAI surge is impacting the whole world. From the company of like 10 to $20 billion company like NVIDIA becoming the last like to $3.5 billion company. So you see we see the tremendous growth that is coming, that is impacting the whole industry, from a small startup to like big companies like NVIDIA or across the board, Google, Meta, and anything, everything. So is this the surge that we are seeing? Do you think this is like a spike or a fluke, or like we have seen in past some of the technologies like blockchain and crypto and other things came? Do you think this is like on the same trend, or this is like this is here to stay and this is here to grow, like in the next revolution, like how internet bloomed, or how there has been other revolutions in the industry which has bloomed much more?
Well, a great question. I think, personally, having watched Gen AI over the last couple of years and its evolution, it definitely looks like another transformational technology, just like mobile, smartphones, the internet, the browser, etc. Right. So I believe it's a transformational technology, and it's going to transform many industries. Obviously, there are limits to what this technology can do and where it's best applied. But things like augmenting the humans in what they're doing is one area where Gen AI can help. It can help in rapid prototyping and product development. It can help various departments in an organization like customer support, in automation, marketing, and other teams in terms of creative and technical writing, data analysis, etc. So, but in all cases, given the early concerns about hallucinations, bias, and other things in Gen AI models, the best applications of Gen AI are one where the data is presented to a human, and the human then verifies the content and verifies the output, and then makes it available to a customer or a partner or whoever it is. That is the safest way to do it, right? And some people will expose the Gen AI models to customers directly. There are some concerns with that, because this technology is still in its early stages in terms of challenges and issues it has. But the best way to apply this is for humans to validate the output before handing it off to a customer or a partner or a user of a system. But definitely this is a transformative, and I'm excited to see what else it can solve in terms of problems and what industries it can transform and automate and improve efficiency, etc.
Totally. So I myself have seen right nowadays every emails what we send without really bothering about how you have written. Do you really focus more on the meat side and then let your chat GPT or any other GenAI tool to decide and make it more official or formal or with good English and good focused view. Uh, and apart from that, I have seen many product managers also using this pretty effectively to develop prototype fast. What do they see? Chat GPT and other GenAI tools, they do like really strong work, even technical writers and all that, creating product documentation and all has been like pretty much what at least in the startups that word, right? This is like very much needed, which when you don't have like much resources, you want to make the things much faster. So totally, I see a lot of
and
yeah,
product development as well, right? I mean,
correct.
it's like the GitHub Copilot and many other tools that are really assisting developers in rapid product, code development, code analysis. It's a second pair of eyes looking through your code and making sure there are no syntactic or semantic issues, etc.
Perfect. Yeah. Productivity has been for everybody. I would say it has been a boost for sure across the board. Cool. So as you see, right? So GenAI adoption coming with, as I said, productivity is getting increased for everybody, and you have listed like a lot of use cases where people are using it. But whenever this type of things come, right, like internet gave it like a really boosted the whole thing, like how to do the things, how to reach out to folks, how to position yourself. But it always comes with, and the security cyber threats came along with it. Same thing is happening with when Gen AI is coming. So what are the main, there are a lot of security threats also coming with this. So what are the main security threats that you see are going to evolve or are going to impact this Gen AI adoption journey?
Yeah, I see two specific areas. First is in the area of model training itself, right? Now, this applies to people who are building the models and how they're training the models. But there are many challenges in terms of model training, making sure that the training data, for example, is not poisoned, the training data is not biased, etc. So there's a lot of security angle and focus that is required in training the models, right? And the second is when the models are being used by enterprises, end users, etc. There are many challenges and concerns there, and these are no different than any other content or data, but it's a new vector and a new deployment for many corporations. But in the case of end users and applications, business applications using Gen AI, you have to look at the input to the model and the output from the model, right? In terms of input to the model, making sure that nothing sensitive, no intellectual property, no privacy data that you don't want going into a model is filtered. So, making sure what you're sending to the model is safe and something that's within your corporate requirement in terms of what can be shared and what should not be shared. The other one is the output from the model. And the output from the model, again, making sure that no sensitive data is being leaked, no intellectual property is being leaked, and you're not violating any privacy regulations in terms of regulations like GDPR and so on, that no private data is leaving the geographic boundaries where it should be. And in addition to that, you also need to worry about, is the model putting out anything that is harmful, right? Now, attackers can manipulate models to generate harmful data as well. And we need to make sure that nothing harmful is being delivered out of the model and it's not harming the actual end user or the application. So I look at it as both from a the initial training phase, and second is the actual usage phase where applications and end users are accessing accessing Gen AI, and we need to make sure that both the input and output are monitored and they're appropriately filtered to make sure there's no harm being done and no intellectual property and sensitive data is being leaked.
Got
the other aspect of Gen AI from a security perspective is Gen AI is being used today by attackers for crafting highly convincing phishing and business email compromise emails. Right, those emails now are being highly targeted to an individual, and they are typically impersonated. So they come from somebody you trust, whether it's a company like Microsoft, or whether it's your business partner, whether it is your CEO, CFO, etc. So these emails are being crafted and typically impersonating either an organization or an individual. And the Gen AI is doing this in a highly convincing way, because you can train the Gen AI model in terms of how the sender normally sends emails or text. So the actual email that is crafted can use the tone, the style of the sender, and it will be next to impossible for someone to really figure out whether this is actually being generated by the actual sender or it's being generated by the Gen AI model, right? So that's a huge concern today. And then another concern is deep fakes, right? And we are seeing this in action nowadays. You probably heard of a North Korean threat actor who is applying for jobs in the US in various Fortune 500, 1,000 companies, getting employment, performing the work. I'm not sure if they're using deepfakes, but that's a perfect example where you can use deepfakes of audio and video and images, etc. And so deepfakes is a huge concern because Gen AI is so good at generating deepfakes. Gen AI also can generate malicious code. It can generate malware, ransomware, if appropriately trained, and the attackers could be using that. Attackers can be using Gen AI for vulnerability analysis, generating exploit code. So there's a broad set of use cases where Gen AI can be abused by attackers and generate very, very powerful and compelling content, whether it's just phishing and BEC emails or malware, malicious code, discovering vulnerabilities, generating exploits against those vulnerabilities. So this breadth of stuff that attackers can do today, and the speed at which it can be done, and the efficiency with which it can be done, is simply alarming, right? And that's really what we need to worry about, besides end users and applications accessing models and the harm that can be done just in that use case. You need to also consider what the bad guys and the attackers can do as well, and make sure that your security products and tools are ready for both of these use cases.
Right, totally. Means I can think of such an analogy, like we have been using tools, right, which can be used for good of the things and can be used for the bad of the world, right? Like take example of knife. You can cut vegetables, do a lot of good chopping around, make your life easier to have a good food, or you can cut your fingers or whatever, right? You can hurt yourself. So
that's right. I think another use case that comes to my mind is also shadow AI. I mean, we have seen shadow SaaS apps, shadow IT, and so on, and that can be extended to the Gen AI domain as well. And here, the primary concern is are end users setting up their own models? Are they using unauthorized models? Are they sharing unauthorized data with these models? Right. And today it's so easy for anyone to log into OpenAI's ChatGPT or any number of copilots and inadvertently share sensitive data, or share intellectual property. So I think shadow AI is another major threat angle. And that's something else that most corporations today are very concerned and very worried about.
Yeah, I can think of one use case which I came across recently. We used to send money to India via voice calls to the banks, and then bank used to validate. It's like, okay, you say some text, and then they validate via voice that this is the real person who is trying to send money to India or send other part of the world. But now they have stopped the service because of this Gen AI things coming picture. You never know who is recording and making the same things and can do a lot of money here and there, right? So I think I see a lot of use cases or a lot of things getting open because of Gen AI getting so stronger and getting so bigger. So as you said, you listed out like tens of use cases where it can be like data security, threats, deepfakes, voice, a lot of things. So, and there are already some of the solutions already in the industry. Like as long as the internet has been in the industry, same we have like security products also in the industry. So, do you think that the existing security solutions, and you have been in security for last 25 years, developed and founded a company by yourself. So, do you think that the security solutions that are right now in the industry are sufficient enough or are okay or to fight the Gen AI adoption security threats that is coming along with it?
Well, just like any other new technology, when it is introduced and deployed, there are new requirements that need to be met, right? So if you look at the current security products and their focus is on traditional threats, whether it's malware, phishing, vulnerabilities, exploits, risks, data leakage. We have data privacy products. Today, for traditional data, right, we have the huge industry around data security. But they're all focusing on traditional data and traditional threats. With Gen AI, you have a new set of threats, a new areas where the data needs to be monitored, and it's both end users and applications using Gen AI. So you have to figure out the right location where the data or the access needs to be monitored, how it needs to be monitored, and then process the inputs and outputs to the model, as we discussed earlier. So it's a matter of whether an existing security product has the visibility to the interaction with the Gen AI models, and whether it can mediate that access, right? If it cannot, then you have a need for a new kind of solution that can augment an existing security product. So I see both existing players adapting and augmenting their solutions, and I also see a need for new security products focused and dedicated towards protecting against Gen AI. And there are many aspects of this, right? One is monitoring, as we discussed. Another is the model training, making sure that while training the model, there is no adversarial data that's getting in. There's no poisoning of data. So there's a need for security solutions there as well. Just like with traditional security, you have pen testing, red teaming, and so on. There could be a specialized domain here for Gen AI, red teaming, Gen AI, pen testing, where someone has the expertise and knowledge to perform that kind of stuff, especially to figure out if there are jailbreaks, if there's ethical concerns, bias concerns, and all of this requires tremendous amount of specialization, right? A typical red teamer, pen tester who does what they do today may not be aware of what needs to be done in the case of Gen AI, and they may have to learn new skills and use new tools, right? And so I think both existing players and new players, there's opportunity, and it's the question of how you innovate and how you specialize and how well you do the task at hand.
Correct. Like it's like you have to do innovation in house, like for the big players or existing players, unicorns, or you have to go for acquisitions to buy startups which are innovating in this space, and to have that. But this is the need of the hour, where as the whole industry is moving towards GenAI adoption. So you need to have that modes to secure things, right?
I mean, the same thing is happening in GenAI in general, right? I mean, you see, for example, there's a new job description for a prompt engineer. I mean, that job didn't exist before, right? And now there are people who are specialists in prompt engineering and developing prompts. Same thing applies to GenAI security, that you can specialize in this domain and do it better than the others who are focusing on a broad set of threats and broad set of issues. There is opportunity for startups and innovators to focus on this problem in depth and do it better than someone who deals with a wide set of issues and techniques.
Right. Earlier, to give example, earlier I never had saw a use case where people are saying mask the data when you are sending to anybody, or blur the data because of the things, or typing or pasting or attaching file. You need to do things, do the checkings and all. So now with this new use cases has been coming for sure. So cool. So what are the, so as we discussed, like what are the different solutions or existing solutions that will be enough? So but with the I think you already touched this next question that I was thinking of talking, is like either these unicorns or these big security giants will have to do innovation, or they will have to develop something. But do you see any challenge where this new GenAI things are coming, so security solutions are there to integrate with the existing cyber framework? So like we already had some data security solutions in DLP, now DSPM and other things coming, or we had like threat vectors, like we already had developed. Means we work together in like a threat team, right? Advanced threat team. So do you see that there is any obstacle or struggle in integrating the new GenAI security solution with the existing frameworks which are there, or you think it's like
sure. So I think that, for example, the existing frameworks today focus on posture, they focus on detection, response, threat hunting, investigation, all these use cases, right? Automation, etc. And a similar set of requirements exist for GenAI. You need to look at GenAI posture, GenAI detection, GenAI response, because it's a new kind of threat, and for that threat you need the same things that you require for traditional malware, traditional phishing, traditional vulnerabilities, and traditional exploits, and the same thing is required for GenAI. And as we mentioned earlier, in the current threat world, you have pen testers and red teamers and so on, and you need the same for GenAI. And it's just a question of specialization, right? You need specialization, you need the expertise, and you need to stay abreast of all the developments that are happening in GenAI, because GenAI is moving at such a rapid pace in terms of its evolution, the number of models that are available, the diversity in terms of the training data sets and what they can do and so on. So focusing on that and specializing in that area, requires tremendous amount of resources and focus. So I think that's what I see as a challenge for traditional players is, can they focus? Can they develop the expertise? Can they keep up with the rapid pace of innovation in GenAI, the rapid pace of development and delivery of new models and new capabilities? And can they secure the applications and end users quickly enough and promptly and rapidly? So that's where there's a room for new companies, new innovators to jump in and focus and specialize in this area, right? It primarily, I mean, the same thing has happened historically, right? When until email security became a real challenge, you didn't see email security vendors, right? Until you started seeing network-based attacks, you didn't see network security vendors like IPS systems or firewall specializing in threat detection, etc. I think the same thing is repeating with GenAI, in my opinion. This is a new problem, and it's a huge problem given the rapid adoption of Gen AI and the way it's transforming various industries. As a result, it needs a specialized security solution just to stay abreast of these developments in Gen AI and rapidly respond to challenges and issues and security threats.
Cool. That's a very good point, Ramesh. And I think on the same line, right, as you said, before email, there was no email security. Before network, there was no network security. And you led network security at McAfee. So we are thinking that maybe in future, couple of years later, there will be like a Gen AI security BU itself, which will be like having like we used to have a network, a couple of 100 millions of revenue just for most of the security big unicorns vendors, just having a full BU dedicated for Gen AI security itself. Cool. So what strategy do you recommend for the organizations because there are a lot of AI attacks coming, data privacy, biasness, toxicity, jailbreaking, prompt injections, and all. So what strategies do you recommend for the organizations to stay ahead of those adversely AI attacks?
Well, first thing is, educating, yourself about the various types of threats that exist in the Gen AI space, right? And this is something that is rapidly evolving, and you see organizations like I think OWASP has a top 10 AI security threats, etc. So first is education and awareness as to what kind of threats you can expect, and second, doing a thorough assessment of your own usage of Gen AI. First of all, do you have visibility to what Gen AI is being used in the organization, how it's being used, and what are the specific concerns and threats that apply to your organization, right? Are you worried about intellectual property? Do you know what your intellectual property is? Do you worried about intellectual property being, inadvertently exposed to the Gen AI models? Or if it is sensitive data, if you're in a regulated industry like a finance organization or a healthcare organization, and if you have regulated data like PCI and PHI data or PII data, are you worried about that kind of data leaking into a model or or the model being trained with the data somehow using RAG or fine tuning or other means, or just using a prompt itself? And are you worried about that data being exposed to third parties where it should not be, right? So first is doing this assessment, and if you're in an industry where you're worried about bias and other such things like ethical use of Gen AI data, you may have to worry about that as well. Besides, simply looking at intellectual property or sensitive data laws, right? So first you need to identify what are the various boundaries and concerns your organization has, then making sure that you're monitoring the usage of Gen AI by end users and applications, and making sure that these concerns are addressed, right? Whether it's addressed using your own homegrown solution or addressed using a commercially available solution, you need to make sure that you take care of that. And if you're worried about malicious code, malicious activity, etc., that's another angle that you need to make sure you're covered. That the model the output of the model doesn't contain any such harmful malicious content.
Got it. So means Ajay, means what do you think? Like the buyers of those type of solutions are CISOs or head of security in different companies, or head of AI, let's say, can be one of the things, one of the folks who will be interested in this type of solution. So what those individuals needs to keep in mind to fight this new security threat vector that is getting with the Gen AI adoption into their infrastructure or into their enterprise?
So I think that the task of a CISO in this area is no different than traditional data, right? Today, today they're already dealing with data security and privacy. Both of those, there are a whole set of products and solutions that are available for most CISOs today. And in many ways, it's similar, right? In terms of what you need to worry about, whether it's a GDPR kind of regulation or whether it's, intellectual property or sensitive data loss. You already, most CISOs are already deploying DLP products, they're deploying DSPMs and data security products and so on. And the same thing needs to be extended to Gen AI, right? It's just that you have to, the solution has to figure out how applications are accessing, how end users are accessing, and what is the best place for doing this kind of monitoring and filtering. So if you're a CISO, you will really have to focus on this aspect of Gen AI. And if most CISOs today are also tasked with red teaming and pen testing in many organizations, and those are typically limited to traditional security, right? But now you need to extend that to Gen AI as well, and Gen AI specific threats and Gen AI specific concerns and challenges. So that's another area where a CISO will have to really start looking into.
Got it. So as you know, Swift Security is like focusing on Gen AI security space. So what advice you give to cybersecurity startups like us, which are focusing on Gen AI security adoption or the threats that are coming with the Gen AI security, Gen AI adoptions? So what should the focus area should be? And as you touched earlier, privacy, biasness, toxicity, OWASP top 10 things. So what as a startup you think that startups like us should be focusing on to attack this landscape or this new landscape, security threat landscape getting created?
So I think from a startups focusing on this area, one is developing the expertise and breadth in terms of Gen AI, right? The entire Gen AI industry is moving at such a fast pace with new solutions, new models, new RAG tools, new training data sets. And a company that focuses on this should focus on both aspects of Gen AI that we discussed earlier. One is the actual model training, providing solutions in that area. And then second is the actual usage of Gen AI by applications and end users. So focusing on both aspects, and some startups can specialize in the model training area, some may specialize in the actual usage of Gen AI. But both of these problems need to be solved. And focusing on all aspects of Gen AI, whether it's sensitive data leakage, intellectual property, theft or leakage, focusing on model output, focusing on bias detection, making sure there's no privacy violations with the data. So specializing in this area and covering the breadth of tools, the breadth of models, and the depth that is required, right, to do it right. So that's where the opportunity is for startups in this space. And the other challenge the startups face here is rapid delivery, right? As a new model comes out or a new solution comes out, making sure that your product evolves quickly, which is not typically the case with the traditional security products. The development timeframes, the update frequencies are not as rapid as that's required in a rapidly evolving industry.
Yeah, so means that is so spot on that the way it is evolving, this Gen AI with new models coming, the speed with the accuracy with which it's working, it's like I have not seen, at least in my career of last 20 years, that this rapid type of growth, like so evolving fast, right? So if we have seen products which evolve with a certain speed, but it's not like it's like 2x, 3x, 4x type evolving. That's why we have not seen at that large scale how Nvidia stocks went from like 20 billion to like 3.5 trillion in just a couple of years, just that has given that whole mass of it's like it's like real exponential growth that is coming with this. So, but thanks Ramesh, thanks for your time today. It was really fun talking to you and learning a lot about the GenAI adoption and its security threats. And thanks for your time today. Thank you.
Likewise, Naveen, it's been a pleasure talking to you. Thank you.